Hello, welcome to the TyCast podcast. My name is Tyler Brown. The date is Saturday, December 3rd, 2022. And welcome to the newest thing I'm trying. This is definitely an experimental sort of project for me. It's also a project that I'm doing for school. I've been tasked with creating a project, reflection project on a political science class I took this fall quarter. I'm currently a freshman at Central Washington University. So yeah, this is kind of like one of those intro classes where you are introduced to sort of new concepts, new collegiate concepts. This specific class was kind of just like it was pretty much just a forum for me and my colleagues to talk about important political topics, whether that be in the past or the present, and how that ties into war and peace. The class itself is peace. It's based around peace, but we kind of went off on quite a few tangents of things that kind of indirectly contribute to peace and war, but more so just conversational topics about things we care about in government and politics, so which has been kind of nice for me. I used to be sort of someone who cared a lot about politics, especially in high school. I was in high school I had just started high school. Well, no. I had been in high school for about a year during the 2020 or 20 geez, we're in the 2020s right now. The 2016 election, which was kind of like a pretty controversial election that really like exemplified politics and polarity in the United States. So yeah, that really got me interested in politics and stuff, was that election, and I kind of around that time started formulating my own viewpoints on certain issues and just general ideology. And then come time for like graduation, I started to go the music route. I went to community college in Spokane and kind of just like lost my interest in politics, I suppose, because I just at that point I mean the election already happened, and the new president had been in politics for a good while at that point, or been in office for a good while at that point, and I don't know, I guess I hadn't really, I just lost interest, and then COVID happened, and I kind of just, I don't know, I guess I just put it on the back burner. Like 2020 was also a pretty controversial election, but it wasn't really something that drew me back in to actually like consistently caring about it. So and that's something I definitely miss, and it's something that I guess miss now because I'm kind of back into caring about it. But anyway, yeah, that's definitely something that I missed, the feeling of having things to care about and argue for, and I definitely got that back by joining a political science class in college. It kind of re-illuminated my viewpoints and reinforced my willingness and drive to, I guess, not necessarily fight for what I care for, but be willing and ready to argue for it, for sure. And I guess that sort of transitions to, what am I willing to fight for? What am I willing to go beyond the point of passionately arguing about it and taking to the streets and fighting for it? So that's kind of the topic of what this podcast is about. What would make me engage in political violence? And have I ever, will I ever, and would I ever? Which is kind of, I don't know, a really difficult thing for me to fathom. Because I'll just say point blank, I have not engaged in political violence, ever. Not once. And I don't know if that is something to be proud of. I don't know if that's something to sort of, I don't know, I guess be disappointed in my cowardice of. I don't know. But it's true. I just haven't. And there's been times in history, especially during the BLM protests. I know I said I wasn't really into politics at that time, but that was kind of one of those things that made me open my eyes a little bit and be like, okay, this is getting kind of ridiculous. Police brutality is definitely not something I am willing to sit aside for and just watch happen without doing anything if I could do anything. And I guess the could I do anything part of it was definitely one of those questions I asked myself when I considered participating in my local protest and actually participating in my right to free speech. I guess my biggest quarrel with that was, is this something that I can do that would actually help the cause and open people's eyes, or is this just putting me in unnecessary danger? Because at that point, at the point to where I got to where I was considering protesting in a BLM protest, things had gotten kind of like rioty in the cities, and I wouldn't have gone to a city to do this, but things got kind of violent and unsafe. And you see these videos of people excuse me, you see these videos of people like getting beat up by batons and getting shielded in the face and arrested and pepper sprayed. Like, you see people, like, pictures and videos of people sitting in the middle of the streets with like tears coming out of their eyes because they'd just been like mass pepper sprayed by police. And I don't know, it just seemed like is that something that is helping? Is that something that actually went towards a solution or a positive outcome? Or is it just self-inflicting harm at that point? And I was mad enough. I would think as mad as the people that decided to go out there and be pepper sprayed and stuff by the police. I was feeling the same anger as they were. I assume. I highly doubt with my position of privilege that I felt anything close to the anger that people of color felt during that time, specifically African American, Black people, and Asian Americans. I know haven't been treated the best in this country, especially recently, and Latin Americans, but where was I going with that? I just think that I definitely felt the pain and the injustice that was coming from this. I'm going to pause this for a second because my throat is killing me. Yeah, so I definitely felt the pain and the anger from the injustice that came from this mass police brutality and the lack of response from government officials and police departments. And I don't know. I just think that I would have. I look back on it right now, 2 years later from those protests, and I wonder, what was the real reason I didn't go out and participate in this? Did I want to avoid political violence? Did I want to avoid going a step beyond peaceful protest? Did I want to avoid putting myself in a position that would have ended up being harmful or threatening to my own physical safety? Or was my lack of participation in this like an action of cowardice? Was this cowardice? And was this I started this podcast thinking I knew the answer to that. And I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to portray myself as this coward that didn't want to go out and protest and fight back the police when they decide to be brutal and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just feel like it's possible for you to be allowed to be angry with the way things are going and specific issues, and see, never mind. I went back to, yes, I am a coward, because peaceful protest that's not listened to and is ignored, more often than not, becomes escalated, and then it dies out. It escalates, and then the next trendy thing that people decide to protest creates its shadow to cast on whatever you were outraged about before. And I don't think that is an extremely useful and forward-moving way to do things. However, if you remain complicit in issues that truly do matter, and issues that hurt people and hurt groups of people, hurt races of people, and you're just complicit in the matter and don't do anything diplomatic or violent, I guess, is that's almost just siding with whoever agrees that these injustices should happen. But would I ever participate in political violence? I guess the answer with that lies in the reaction by either a police force or government to whatever I do decide to protest. Because I feel like when it comes to being a citizen in a society, beyond like running for government or just inducing yourself into the governmental process, being just a regular citizen that is not in government, your diplomatic solution to issues is peaceful protest. That is diplomacy. That is trying to find compromise and peace without resulting into violence. And I feel like when it comes to an entity that does not respond to diplomacy, the human nature answer to an entity that does not respond to diplomacy is violence. That is something that we see in several instances in history. That's something that we literally even saw in our own game that we played in my political science class that one of my colleagues did for their final project. Like, it became human nature for violence to occur when diplomacy and compromise was ignored. So I feel like when it comes to that point, for me, when I am protesting for something that I care about and I feel ignored, or if I am responded to in a way that I feel is threatening or oppressive, then yes, I think I would participate in political violence, and I think that anybody who does in those instances are justified. So, I suppose that's my viewpoint on political violence. It's, if diplomacy does not work, if peaceful negotiations of compromise does not work or is ignored, then political violence is justified. With that being said, I am generally more of a peaceful, non-confrontational human being. I will pretty much do anything I possibly can to avoid confrontation, whether that be with customers that I deal with at my retail job. I will take any route I need to end any confrontation and just move on, whether that be something that's not necessarily according to policy as a customer service representative that I'm given by my company, which is probably the most incriminating thing I can say that I do, or just meeting kindness with I don't even know the word, kindness with being mean. Like, you, as a retail customer service person, you meet a lot of mean people throughout your time, for sure. And I know people that I've worked with in the past, and that maybe that I work with now, that is okay with taking on confrontation. And again, maybe that just goes to show the level of cowardice that I have in my life right now. But I also have an issue with self-deprecation. So that might kind of go hand in hand there. But beyond that, I think that just my very personality of not wanting to be confrontational, not wanting to end whatever sort of confrontation I possibly can. I like, just the very sight of a police cruiser following me on University Road, which is like almost once a week at this point. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm driving erratically or wrongly or whatever, but I several instances since I moved here, I have been followed at least a block by a police cruiser before they turn off somewhere else. And maybe it's just my paranoia, but I immediately think I do not want a confrontation right now. That's the last thing I want to do. I just want to go about my business, and if I get pulled over right now, I'm literally going to be scared, answer every single question regardless of whatever injustice might happen, or any sort of incorrect advances that are made upon me. At that point, I will not question authority, because I do not like confrontation. And when it comes to confrontation in a sense of engaging in mob behavior and political violence within a protest that turns into a riot, I just don't think that is something that I am willing to risk for myself. That's just my personality. And maybe that has what kept me alive as long as it has. Maybe there's so many people with that way of thinking in this world that I am contributing to why issues aren't addressed and why oppression happens. Which is definitely something I am willing to own up to and work on. But ever since I have had the ability to think for myself and formulate my own opinions and thoughts, that is just how I've conducted myself, and is the reason why I haven't, and if I'm being honest with myself, probably won't ever participate in political violence. So I guess the question is, or the question I've answered so far is, I haven't and won't participate in political violence. However, political violence in a situation where peaceful solutions haven't been met is justified. So that kind of leaves the question. The last question here is, if I care so much about these issues that are not addressed that hurt people, why am I unwilling to participate in political violence? And that's just a really tough thing to ask yourself. That's something that I really have to dig really deep into my core to figure out. And maybe that's just something I need to work on. Maybe that's something that I need to try to adjust myself to do. And maybe that's a figure of why I am really bad at confronting my own personal issues, procrastinating, like confronting my own personal issues, and coming to terms with reality without considering the fact that I can change my positions and I can put myself in a better circumstance if I had just addressed issues in my personal life. And maybe that's why issues on a global scale or on a national scale, maybe that's why those issues aren't addressed adequately, because there's not enough people who are willing to break out of the comfort zone and decide not to be complicit in injustice. Maybe that's why. Yeah. But then you ask yourself, like, is my complacency, that's a good word. Is my complacency, that's probably not even a word, but I'm going to go with it. Is me being complacent a product of natural instincts to survive? Are people who are complacent and complicit in issues on a national and personal level simply doing that to survive? Because, I mean, like, deep down, I know that I want my personal issues to be addressed. And deep down, I'm sure everyone who's ever considered participating in political violence but decided not to wanted those issues to be addressed. But there's something inside of your hardwiring and your brain that tells you that doing this is dangerous. Doing this can lead to more hurting for yourself, despite whatever this thing might help. Despite whatever addressing these things in this way, despite however that may help. You know? So I feel like, geez, it's just a really hard question. I thinking about it, yes, it's definitely a natural instinct. However, so many people, so many heroes, like, the stereotypical hero. That is the wall in the hero's journey that they have to face. And every successful story of heroism, that wall is climbed over. Every single time, without hesitation. So maybe that's just the answer. Climbing over your natural instinct to survive and doing what needs to be done to address the issues that you face. And that is the justification for political violence. That is the wall. That is your jumping over of a natural instinctive wall to express your frustration and unbearableness towards injustice and lack of peace and lack of listening and lack of being heard. That is the climax. That is the hurdling of the wall, for sure. So reflecting on that, I do think if I can find myself the ability to get over that wall and address my own personal issues, I do think that I can find myself participating in political violence, especially if these instances of oppression and police brutality continue. And I say that from a very, 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 very privileged point of view. I am in comparison to several groups of people throughout this globe, I am in a very privileged position to say that I can participate in political violence and not like take in the same consequences as others would. Definitely. As a white, middle-aged, 21-year-old man in America, I'm privileged. For sure. And, just thinking about that, if I am in such a privileged position, why am I not sticking up for the people who aren't? And I don't want to approach that in a way that, like I have to be the savior of people who aren't privileged. I have to be the representative of them in a white community. I that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying more along the lines of, why am I remaining complicit? I mean, there's really no other way to say that. Why am I letting people around me, even members of my own family, behold these old-fashioned ideas of othering and polarization and just nasty, like, ideas of groups of people that are just conjured out of nowhere, like, passed down. It's definitely passed down between generation and generation. I'm white, so my ancestors were definitely not oppressed when they immigrated. I definitely have European descent, which means, my ancestors participated in the institution of slavery in America. They definitely participated in Western expansion and Trail of Tears and and destroying livelihoods of people who, like, people destroying the livelihoods of people that had nothing to do with being savages or being lesser than. They were people. And I think that's something that when we look back on history, we fail to recognize that the people that were oppressed were bleeding the same blood and beating the same hearts as any other person who has walked this earth. And even as studiers of history, historians, there's this idea where we just kind of say, oh, they were slaves. Oh, they were Native Americans. We conquered and enslaved, and that was that. And then we decided that slaves should be free, and we decided Native Americans should have their own place in the country they were from the land that they were already there on, and oh man, that was a tangent. Where was I going with that? I don't know. I just feel like we've dehumanized these people in history. And in doing that, we pass down these generations of ideologies, especially within white families, that people of color are separated. They're different. And just that ideology is the very reason we face the issues we face today. Because there's still this notion, and it's a watered down notion, but there's this notion that there are different kinds of people, and some people are better than others. I'm better. Like, the idea of we're better than those people. That's just kind of the ideology that's passed down. And it's something that I remember hearing in my childhood. Not necessarily in a concrete, like transparent way, not in a way that is obvious, but it's still just like a flavor of how certain generations and certain people are are raised. They're raised in this sort of echo chamber of generational ideology that expresses and exemplifies polarization and othering. And yeah, that's just why we have it. Because if that keeps getting passed down, there's really no solution or way to change the minds of people who were raised this way. Yeah. So, really, is peace possible? Is peace possible when you have this old-fashioned, age-old ideology that keeps getting passed down without fail? Is it possible? No. I don't think peace is possible. Especially in the current state of humanity and the current idea that parents teach their children their way of life, and it's passed down to the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. That ideology and that way that people view the world and the people around them hasn't gone anywhere, and it won't go anywhere. That's just human culture. That's just the way humanity is. And as long as that exists, and I don't see any sort of solution or way to get out of that. I really don't. And it's sad, because humanity deserves better. Humanity deserves to feel not inferior. Humanity deserves to thrive. That's when you think about it, humans are such a complex creature that learned, created their own world and made all this technology and became such a species of innovation. We went to the frickin' moon. Why can't we just chill? Why can't we just chill? Why can't we just realize we're not different? Age-old ideology shouldn't exist because that's age-old. And we don't use technology from the 1950s anymore because that's old. We innovated, we molded it into a different version of ourselves, and we're going to continue to do that. But the one thing that we don't change, the one thing that we don't alter is our culture our generations, our political ideologies, just the way we think. Just the way we think on how we conduct ourselves politically and how we interact with each other. It's just sad that we can't figure that out when we can figure all this other stuff out. And it makes you wonder, like, the universe is so vast. There has to be creatures, different species of life forms out there that have the similar intellect and biological buildup that we do. The universe is just so vast that there's just no way that something else out there doesn't exist. And it makes you wonder, like, if we as humanity ever have to present ourselves in an intergalactic society, pretty much present ourselves as one thing, one entity in space to interact with aliens, pretty much. I know this is a tangent, but I swear I'm going somewhere with this. If we can't come together, if we're so intellectual, why can't we come together? What are we missing? I don't know the answer to that. And I think that's the reason why we're never going to find peace, complete peace, and maybe just the very fact that we're justifying political violence, the very fact that we find justification for political violence and that political violence has to be justified, there's just no way that we can reach peace. And it makes you wonder, like, how as an individual can you remedy that? How can one person remedy that? I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much the end of that. I don't have much more to say about it. I know there's going to be at least one person that listens to this, and that's my political science professor. I hope that you enjoyed or somewhat got a feel of my viewpoint on political violence and why it's justified and why we can't reach peace and all that. And just specifically talking to you, Dr. Youngblood, I really appreciate your presence in the beginning of my career here at Central. Once again, this class really got me back into thinking about things and issues that I care about, and it got me back into thinking in a way that I enjoy thinking. So, and just this class, I swear, I tried doing community college, and just college in general out of high school. I've been out for 3 years now, almost 4. It's been 4 years almost. I graduated in 2019, so I graduated before COVID, and way before COVID, actually, almost a whole year before it. And I just since then, I haven't really considered or been given a platform or forum to express myself in such a way that you enabled everyone in this class to do. And I I want you to know my appreciation for that. And I don't think I want to do political science. That's definitely not really my thing. But I would love to try and get myself back in one of your classes before I graduate. I don't know. I just feel like you helped unlock a part of me that I have had locked for a while now, and it feels good. It feels good to get that part of me back. I really appreciated having a forum to speak my mind, and I appreciated having a forum for having discussions with people about this kind of stuff. It's definitely something that I'm gonna miss, and it's something that I really integrated into my daily routine. Ever since September, I don't know. I guess this class just became a part of my life that I enjoyed, and up until I moved here to Ellensburg and started attending Central, that's not really something that I had, really. But yeah. Okay, thanks so much for listening, and carry on. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.